Okay, am I audible? So my time begins in 3, 2, 1. First of all, we need to look at what carbon trading means. Yeah, they've defined it very well. They've talked about carbon trading being the fact that countries are allowed to produce and sell and mostly trade carbon credits, allowing them to actually pollute and reduce carbon emissions as they wish. Something else, we need to talk about this metric of allowing companies to produce carbon emissions or carbon emissions into the environment. It also we, on our side, which is side opposition, we provide reparation mechanisms in the sense that these carbon credits are being created or are being earned by installing reparation mechanisms which involve planting trees or planting crops that actually reduce these carbon emissions from the environment. We also need to both concede that on both sides of the house, carbon emissions or carbon is being emitted either way. Like there are carbon emissions, we need industries, we need to produce food, we need to produce any other thing that we need to produce in our industries and manufacturing in our countries. Therefore, carbon is being emitted either way on both our sides. But what we provide for you on side opposition is the fact that we actually provide reparation mechanisms and a cap in the sense that companies are not allowed to produce emissions as they wish. These carbon credits produce a sense of capping this amount of emissions that are being produced into the environment. I will do this in 2 ways, showing you the benefits of these of carbon trading and giving you the impact into the society. One of the benefits that carbon credits or carbon trading brings into the society is that companies or countries, because they forgot to actually acknowledge that companies in these countries are the main actors. These industries are actually the main actors. They're the ones that are producing the emissions, not the countries themselves. Therefore, they need to be involved in this particular petition that we're arguing for. So companies or countries in our world have the carbon credits actually produce a sense of capping carbon emissions into the atmosphere. So the whole idea of having carbon credits to trade in the first place is so that companies can have a limit as to how many emissions they're trading or they're producing. The whole metric of carbon trading produces restrictions for a company or a country to exhaust their carbon credits. So it actually produces a sense of capping the amount of emissions into the atmosphere, in the sense that if a country or company exhausts their carbon credits, they have to either use more money from their revenue or from their taxes or any money that they might have to actually try and buy these credits. So they actually try to reduce the amount of carbon emissions that they're producing into the atmosphere, so that they do not surpass the carbon credits that they're trying to that they have. So in a sense, it actually tries to cap the amount of emissions that are being produced by these companies or countries. Another benefit is a reduction in the amount of carbon emissions into the atmosphere. The process of acquiring carbon credits is one that involves the implementation of measures that act as reparation mechanisms, in the sense that in order to acquire these carbon credits, as I said, they need to plant trees, they need to plant these particular crops that reduce these emissions. Therefore, we believe that it is better for companies and countries to be allowed to trade carbon credits, or to be allowed to have these carbon credits, to be allowed to trade and have them, since it will be better for the atmosphere at large. Yes, another benefit that it has is there's an economic advantage to these companies and countries, something that they have completely ignored, in the sense that these companies or countries that sell these carbon emissions, like mostly this happens in countries like Africa, since we are known as a green continent. We have a lot of land, we can plant a lot of trees. They tried to talk about the fact that how much land is needed to plant trees in order to actually reduce the amount of metric tons of carbons in the atmosphere. We actually believe you don't really need a large sum of land to plant enough trees to reduce carbon emissions. A small piece of land or a couple of trees can actually absorb a lot of carbon emissions in the atmosphere. Therefore, we believe that we disagree completely with the fact that they try to claim that you need a large sum of land to actually try and plant trees for the reduction of these carbon credits. the benefit that I was getting to, economic advantage to the companies, in that companies or countries such as Africa that actually need these resources gotten from carbon credits will be able to acquire them and actually distribute them or redistribute them to other sectors that actually require this money without actually even touching on their taxes or on their revenue or on anything. They completely try to ignore the economic advantage that it has to these developing countries. Another benefit that it has is it actually creates an incentive for these countries or companies to create reparation mechanisms. As I had talked about earlier, planting trees improves or planting trees increases the amount of carbon credits for a country or for a company or for any other metric that is involved in this carbon credits. Therefore, it actually creates an incentive for countries and companies to try and create reparation mechanisms for carbon that is already in the atmosphere, something that they already ignored, something that you already ignored. This carbon that is already in the atmosphere is actually absorbed, and we are able to rejuvenate the environment. And we are able to actually impact on climate change rather than trying to reduce carbon, fossil fuels and all of that as they were trying to claim. I will take them on their worst case scenario, which is pollution will still continue. It will still even get heightened since they don't produce any type of cap or reparation mechanisms. They try to claim that we will stop the burning of fossil fuels, but they fail to recognize the fact that most of these countries are actually driven economically by these industries and the production of carbon fuels. Therefore, we actually believe that on our side, we actually provide better reparation mechanisms by bettering the environment, and we reduce the amount of emissions in the environment. Thank you.
Wow.